This is Introduction to the Hebrew, chapter 10, the PL verb. Been covering all these other verbs. Now we're going to the PL stem. Cover the causative, which Martin covers on page 106. We're going to look at the meaning of the PL verb and the forms of the PL pattern. Just to review, here's your cal, hifil, PL, nifal, hofal, pual, right? So cal is simple action, active voice. Okay? Simple action, active voice. Nifal, simple action, passive voice. So he threw the ball, right? Cal, the ball was thrown. Nifal, passive. Okay? Active and passive have nothing to do with tense or time. We're not talking about future and past. Remember, when we're talking about active and passive, we're talking about the action of the verb. So Aiden threw the ball, right? Aiden is doing the simple action there. Aiden is throwing the ball. The ball was thrown at Aiden, okay? The ball isn't doing anything. The ball is being thrown. Therefore, in that verb, the subject, the ball, is passive, right? It's not actually doing the action, it's passive in the action. It's being thrown. Reflexive would be something like Aiden threw the ball at himself, okay? Reflexive, doing the action to yourself. Causative, which we looked at last week with the hifal and hofal, which is he caused to throw the ball. Okay. Now we're looking at intensive action. That's what the PL is. Martin doesn't really point out that the PL is intensive action. It's kind of each to own their interpretation of the idea of a PL. I want to bring out the intensive action because that helped me get that in my mind whenever I was studying Hebrew, that it's an intensive action. It's active and it intensifies. So this, for example, this is not a good example, but this is an example. Aiden threw the ball, Cal. PL would be something like Aiden threw the ball. Let me think. Aiden cannoned the ball, right? It takes that simple Cal action and intensifies it to a greater degree. Sometimes intensifies it so much it changes the meaning. Like Aiden shot the ball. Like it would change the entire meaning of what we're looking at here. It's not just, oh, he didn't just throw it. He destroyed it. He threw it so hard. Something like that is what the PL does. It intensifies that simple actions the way that I kind of understand the PL. But we're going to look here in a moment. You're going to see it's kind of all over the place. PL being in a different stem, it intensifies that action of that lexical form to the point that oftentimes you just probably need to look up the PL verb, okay? Because it means something funny sometimes. The meaning of the PL stem, intensive. That's what I was just speaking about. Intensive action with the active voice. Uh, Shiver, he's smashed into pieces. Factative, and Martin mentions factative and denominative. Factative, if you look on page 108 of Martin's book, the cow, Gadal, would be he was great. Gadal, he was great. In the PL, it'd be he was brought into a state of greatness, or you intensify the idea of someone being great, he exalted. Okay, he was exalted. Uh, Zakan, he was old, was brought into a state of old age. Okay, so it's an intensified understanding of that cow. The next one, Kavad, Kavad, he was important. The PL would be it was like he was brought into a state of importance. He was honored. Here, Kadash. You remember what Kodesh is? Kodesh. Kodesh is holy. So Kadash is to be holy. In the PL, it would be something as he sanctified. He made something holy. He brought something into a state of holiness, and that's what I have up here on the screen. Um, Denominative, the verbs arrive from noun or adjective. Dever, deber. Deber is a very common word in the Hebrew Bible, especially when we're talking about divine speech. Lord, deber. Lord says. Uh, it's more of a simple type of action. He spoke. And it's down here at the bottom of the page. The noun is just word. Bottom of page 108. See on the left-hand column, you have Kohen and Davar, word. Well, Deber is the PL verb of that noun. So the denominative is derived from a noun, and it's an intensified verbal aspect of that noun. So Davar, which we've learned that word, means just word. Deber is intensified to be a verb, so it's spoke a word, in other words. So just Kohen, remember Kohen, we followed that Kohen verbal pattern. I'm still at the bottom of page 108. Kohen, that's our OE pattern for our participle. OE, cal active participle, priest or active. With a noun, Kohen, priest, in the PL, Kihen, he served as a priest. At the bottom, Athar, which is dust. Ifer is he dusted or he threw dust on something. Nachash is a serpent. Nichesh is he practiced sorcery. Shoresh is root. Sheresh is he uprooted. All right, you see how that kind of works, that denominative understanding? You're taking that noun, it's getting intensified. You can recognize it from its verbal, or excuse me, if you recognize the PL verb from its noun counterpart based upon the pronunciation, based upon the pointing, the vowel pointing is correct, such as Kohen on 108, OE, you have a holum and you have a sere versus Hirik sere. Kihen, that doesn't even sound the same. Kohen, Kihen. That's one thing, that's one area where vocalization becomes important when you're trying to study and read your Hebrew Bible, that you vocalize where you can catch those subtle differences. You're like, wait a minute, I know that root, I know kaf, hey, noon, I know that is priest, that goes back to the priest root, but I'm not recognizing this verbal pattern. It becomes a vowel. In fact, it happens a lot, not just with PL, but with a lot of stems. There's also an iterative action, expresses the nuance of repeated action. So halak, and normally in the cal is he walked or to go or to walk. The PL becomes an iterative action. We'll see this later on with another verb form called the hishpatel. An iterative action of he paced about. He went about, he paced. You also have simple active action, which Martin doesn't mention these, but that's okay. Simple active action, berek, he just simply blessed. Okay. Same thing in cows would be PL, he blessed. It's from the noun, excuse me, that's from the cow, barak, bless. All right. Any questions on meaning, by the way? Good. You see how it intensifies that cow? Like nifal makes the cow passive. Ifil makes the cow causative. So he ate, he was eaten, nifal, he caused to eat. Ifil, PL would be he consumed, like this gosh, like it just kind of intensifies. And I think that intensive action personally is probably one of the more common ones, the way I interpret PL verbs. Intensive and denominative, you see that a lot. Intensive, factative, denominative. In fact, I would probably even include factative in a little bit of that intensive form of the verb. I think those two really go closely together. Because you go Kodesh, holy, to Hidesh, sanctified, right? That's still an intensive type of thing, intransitive, transitive type of thing. Anyway, the var, so on the left-hand column, what you're seeing is the cal, perfect, third masculine singular form of the verb. On the right-hand column, that's your lexical form on the left-hand column. Right-hand column, this is not in Martin's book. The right-hand column, you're getting the PL and the cal compared. So the var only appears in the PL, and it means speak. Zava is only in the PL, and it means to command or give an order or to charge. The Lord commanded. That'll be a lot. The Lord spoke. Will be a lot. Shalach in the cal is to send, stretch out. PL is to send away, and to expel. Okay, so it intensifies that action. Barak in the cal is be blessed, praise, be adorned. And in the PL, it's bless and praise. All right, I'm going to bless you. Not that you are blessed, you're going to bless somebody. Right? It's Bakash. Bakash is to seek, to search for, to look, discover, demand, require. Kala and the Kal is to be complete, finished, and PL is you're complete, you're finished, bring it to an end. Kasa, to cover, conceal, or hide. PL is to cover up, conceal, and clothe. Halal is to praise and sing hallelujah. So that's where we actually get our word hallelujah. This word right here, halal. You're going to get a hallelujah. That's in a PL. We'll actually find that later on in the Hishtapel also, I believe. Malay, Malay, to be full, fill up. PL, it's to film, fill, perform, and carry out. So, finishing a duty, not just your being full and filling. It intensifies understanding. You're going to finish your duty. You're going to feel, right? You're going to feel, literally. Sarat, to minister and to serve in the PL. PL diagnostics we have here is you have the schwa under all imperfect performatives. Every single imperfect performative is going to have a vocal schwa. Okay, so keep that in mind. You're also going to have a pathak under the first root consonant, which is that cough there, except for in the perfect where it's a heuric. And the Dagesh forte is probably the biggest PL distinctive marker. You have a Dagesh forte in that second root consonant of every form in every conjugation of the PL. That little booger right there is your biggest diagnostic feature, but that guy is also the thing that's going to give you probably the most trouble when looking at PL verbs. Look at the pronunciation. Yekatel, yekatel, yekatel. Different from what we hear at Cal. Yiktol, right? Or a nifal, yikatel, or hifil, which is yakatil, yakatil. So they all sound different. Yekatil, 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 yekatil. All right. PL perfect. Now, if you're confused on why we're looking katal, or katal means to kill, cal. Martin gives the list of all the katal verbs. Martin throughout he uses gadal on page 109 for his PL perfect, and then he uses kavad, be heavy to be important on page 110. Then he uses the beer on page 111. And then that's it. That's his examples. But on page 115 of Martin's book, what you'll find is that he uses katal. And page 115 is very helpful when you're doing your homework or when you need to review. Okay. So notice at the end of every chapter here so far, he's done this. It's getting bigger and bigger now. So now we know. In fact, I need to actually go back. Katal, Katel, and Katol. I explain those real quick. We have the Cal, Nifal, Hifil, Hofal, and PL. I'll actually pause right now. We'll go back and cover that status. I forgot to put that in my PowerPoint. Go back to page 106. Martin mentions the Cal state of verbs. He says the Cal state of verb has implications for the understanding of the PL stem. Thus, we will look at the statives. Up to this point, we have studied only finitive verbs, verbs of action and motion, the Katal pattern. For example, Kal, he ate. Shamar, he kept. Katal, he killed. Yatzah, he went out. So those are verbs of action, right? That is the Katal pattern. A. Okay, notice Qatal, how he spells that in English. That's your A, right? And if you look at, for example, a call, he ate, Aleph, comments, which is an A, Kaf, Pathak, A, Lamed. So you've got consonant, A class vowel, consonant, A class vowel, consonant. That's the Katal pattern he's mentioning. And as a stative pattern, which is a verb, or excuse me, it's a finitive verb pattern, which is a verb of action. Well, now he's going to look at the stative verbs, which we're going to find in the second half of page 106. Stative verbs present a situation or an event involving a state or a condition. Okay, these verbs are intransitive. The Cal stem. The English language has no stative verbs except for the verb to be. Okay, that's our only stative. We would say you are great, right? Are is a version of to be great. He was great. She is great. He is great. They will be great, right? We have that stative verb, to be, will be, are, is, am, is, are, was, we, being, am, is, are, was, were, be, being, been, right? We learned that in English class. That's your stative verb in English, and we add something to it. When in Hebrew, that stative idea that we don't really think about in English is put into the word itself, such as here, gadol, he was great, okay? Notice how you have that stative was, state, it's a state of being, right? That's why we call it state of being, of being great, right? Literally. Gadol, Katan, he was small. Keved, he was heavy. Zaken, he was old, okay? These stative verbs describe a state of being or a condition. It says, as you can see from examples given above, the vocalization of the Cal stative verbs is slightly different from that of finite verbs. So it's not katal, a. We have is a o and a e. Okay. So the four verbs given above are illustrated of the two conjugations, the Cal statives, which is katol and katel. Okay, a o and a e, in other words. In the perfect of the kaved pattern, the Sarah places the pathak of shamar. You see that? How it's not A class vowel, it's A class vowel, E class vowel, and kaved. Only in the third masculine singular. In katon, the pattern of the cholim replaces the pathak in all places. If you look at page 107, he kind of illustrates this. You have the katal pattern on the left-hand column, which is shamar, shamarti, shamarta, shamarte, shamar, shamare, shamarnu, shamartim, shamartin, shamaru, which we've been studying for a while, right? That's your katal. What he's doing here is just introducing these stative verbs, and in a cal, these stative verbs look slightly different. Specifically, in the cal katel, there's only one major difference in the verbal form, and you see it right there in that third masculine singular. Okay. Notice that's at A E katel, and then you go to the cal katol, which is that final column. There's several differences, such as the colon rather than the pathak, and we find that throughout most of these words. The comments katan down there in the second masculine plural, the perfect, and then we have pathaks rather than colons in the imperfect and in the imperative. So it gets a little bit different, and pronunciation's different. Such as you look at the imperfect first common singular of katan, that third column, in calcatol, ektan, ektan, okay, ektan. Quite a big difference from eshmore, right? Eshmore, E-O. Now we have ektan, E-A. So that's something Martin wants us to be aware of, that these stative verbs take a little bit different of a vowel pattern. And the reason for that is because these are being directly derived from the nouns, right? Gadol is great. Katan is small. Kaved is glory or heavy. Zakan is an old man, right? That's these verbs being derived from those nouns. And so the spelling is just a little bit different on them. That makes sense? You guys have questions on that? Just a little bit different of a spelling. And the only ones that have the different spelling are the statives. Any other action verb follows the katal pattern. It's not an action verb, it's going to follow the tail of the katal. Okay. That's why 115 includes those to help us out. Back to the PL. PL perfect. Get up here on the screen. You can also look at page 115. Or for comparison, you can also look at Mark's example on page 109. He uses Gadol for his example. I'm going to stick with the Katal because that's the most common example in most textbooks, and the slides were made for me already, so I didn't have to sit around and make slides. So it just made it easier on me. Katal, Katale, Katalta, Katalte. We know the Cal perfect. Let's look at the PL. Kittel, right? I'm doubling that T because we have a dagesh in the tet. Kittel. Different than katal. Kittel. Kittale, kittel. ta, kit till te, kit till t, kit till lu, kit till tim, kit till tin, kit till nu, right? Notice the two main things here. We have the Hirik, we have the Dagesh, okay? That's going to be throughout that entire that entire PL perfect pattern. Hirik, Dagesh, Hirik, Dagesh. As you work through your sentences, you'll begin to pick it up a lot more. And look at the difference. Katal is he was killed, right? Or he killed. PL is he slaughtered. Notice the intensification there. Not just a kill, he slaughtered. That's why I think the intensified action describes PL really well. PL imperfect. Yictol, tictol, tictol, tictoli, tictol, ectol, yictolu, yictolna, tictolu, tictolna, nictol. All right. We should be able to run through those pretty good by now. PL is a little different. Notice we have a vocal schwa under the performative. When I say performative, I mean that thing that's added to the root on the front in the imperfect paradigm. The very first and third masculine singular is a yod. All right, so we have a vocal schwa under the yod, right up here, right here, in fact. Vocal schwa under the yod. Then we have a pathak under the comments. Pathak under the kof, and a dagesh in the tet. Okay, that's your three diagnostic features in the imperfect. Always gonna have a vocal schwa, and then you have an A-class vowel and the dagesh. Yekatel, yekatel, tekatel, tikatel, tekateli, akatel, yekatelu, tekatel na, tikatelu, tekatel na, nekatel. Right, quite different than your cow. Right, we go from nictol to nekatel. All right, big difference in pronunciation. Stressing it again. That's why I need to pronounce it when you're studying. It'll help you out a lot. These are vocal schwas, so don't be afraid of them. Just say them. Or vocal schwas, put E. Yeah. Yekatel. Yekatel. Okay. Any questions? PL imperative. Or the imperative, what we do is we take off the performative. So imperatives are only in your second masculine singular and second masculine plural and second feminine singular and second feminine plural. That's how your imperatives are. And what you do for imperative, you remove to performative and you keep the verbs. Okay, so tekatel becomes ka-tel. Okay, ka, katli, katlu, katelenu, katelenu. So feel imperative. Remember how imperative is? You kill. Here in the PL, it's you slaughter. It's a command. Usually be in the front of your sentence, front of your syntax. In your syntax of your sentence, will be in the very front. You kill, you slaughter, you, right? That's your imperative. PL infinitive construct. Katel. Okay. Katel. Infinitive absolute. They look exactly the same. How can you tell the difference between infinitive construct and infinitive absolute? Well, construct is going to have separate prepositions, right? You'll have a bait, so you have a bait, a lamed, or a kaf added to the front of your group there in the PL infinitive construct. That's how you tell the difference. Infinitive absolutes are used different too. PL participle, all right? Like our hifil, PL participle is going to take a maim on the front of it. Our cow participle, OE pattern, co-pain, right? Kotel, kotelet, kotelim, kotelot. All right, that's our cow participle. PL participle looks a little different. We have a vocal schwa underneath the main, so same thing as our imperative. All right, we're gonna have a vocal schwa underneath our performative, which is a main. Mekatel, mekatel, mekatelet, mekatelim, mekatelot. All right, so we have main, which is diagnostic feature, vocal schwa is a diagnostic feature, comments is a diagnostic feature, and then not Pothok, excuse me, is our diagnostic feature, and the Dagesh is a diagnostic feature. You got several in the PL participles, right? Notice that Dagesh in the theme vowel runs through the whole thing. Theme Dagesh. I can't speak tonight. Dagesh in the second consonant of the root runs throughout the whole paradigm, all the paradigms. Always going to find that Dagesh. I'll show you in a minute the exception to the rule, but it's not super, super hard, okay? I think y'all can get it. Remember the participle prefixes and the derived stems? Nifal participle prefixes are noon. Hifil and Hofal are maims. PL is a maim, and then next week, I believe, next week we'll look at Hithpael and Pual, which also have maims. The Hithpael adds a tet or tav, tav to it. So in summary, notice we have Dagesh, right? Perfect, we have the Hirik, but in every other stem, we have a Pathak, a class vowel, right? All the way through. You can recognize the PL is easier if we know the cows really well, okay? No, for PL, so Nifal is a noon, right? That's what we're looking for when we see the Nifal. We're like, oh, there's a noon there. It's got to be a Nifal. Or hey, there's a Dagesh in that first letter of my root. Probably going to be a Nifal imperfect because that noon is assimilated, right? We talked about that. Hifil, we're looking for a hey, and for an A class vowel, we're looking for Hirik, Yod, or Sere in that middle, right? How we tell the difference between a PL and a Hifil, right? Because PL has Seres. Hifil is not going to have a Dagesh in that middle consonant, okay? That's the difference there. Here, what we're looking for is the Dagesh in the middle consonant, Hirik or A class vowel, or the vocal schwa. Okay? So there's ways to tell the difference. Once you realize this isn't a cow, you're looking for a noon, a hey, Hirik Yod, or Dagesh. All right, those four things is what you're looking for right now, and you can figure out Hifil, Hofal, PL, Nifal already. Okay, that's why cal is very important to get first so you can go on. Plus, cal is 70% of your verbs, right? We talked about that last week. 70% of your verbs is cal. You can get cal, you get 70% of your verbs, and you can figure out the other 30%, I promise. PL weak verb. This is what I'm talking about when it's different. One of the prime examples of when it's different, I think Martin does this. PL is called weak verbs. So we've been looking throughout Martin's textbook at strong verbs, strong roots. A weak root is like this, naham. Okay. Notice what's different about this root than any other root. We've got a guttural as that second consonant of our root, chet. What's special about a guttural? Do you remember? They reject a, okay, do you remember the 5 gutturals we have? One of them's a half guttural. That's their half guttural. Hey, chet, ayin, and aleph. Excellent. So you got 5 gutturals. Guttural is in your second consonant of your root, which several words do that. What that's going to do is it's going to reject, okay? It is going to reject that Dagesh. That's when it gets tricky, okay? With the perfect of Nacham, it's easy, okay? Nacham, by the way, Nacham is a word that means to repent or relent. We find in, it's not Exodus 32, because that's when they worship the image of the bull in the book of Exodus. In like Exodus 34, 35, 36, the Lord nacham of his anger. The Lord relented. The Lord repented. The King James Version even says he repented of his anger. It means to turn back on, like to pull back, to relent of that anger. Not necessarily that God repents, right? I think it's in this translation we say repent, leads to some bad ideas in theology. Lord relents of that anger. So this is a very common word in your Bible. Necham is your perfect. Notice you still have the heric, right? No, it's not a cal already because we don't have comments, okay? No, it's not a nifal because we don't have a noon on the front. We do have a noon, but this is 3 consonants, right? We don't have a noon on the front. We know it's not a hifil. We don't have a hey. We know it's not a hofal. We don't have a hey. PL, right? We got that heric is telling us. Same thing all the way through. Vocal schwa, A class vowel. Remember, this is your A class vowel is a diagnostic feature of your PL. Vocal schwa, A class vowel, A class vowel, A class vowel, A class vowel, A class vowel with a serine. That's tricky, right? That's pretty tricky. That's the hard part about the PL when you get these second guttural words. So it'll be difficult just reading. Here's the deal. You guys aren't going to just pick up a Hebrew Bible. I don't think anybody in this class can pick up a Hebrew Bible that doesn't have any helps in it and just read it anyway, right? I don't do that for the most part. Some text I can do that if I know it really well. For the most part, I read a reader's edition, which I'm going to show you guys that in the last class. I'm going to show you all these reader's editions, which one I think you guys should buy. Those will parse verbs for you, okay? So some of these are tricky. The reader's editions know that they're tricky. At the bottom of the page, will tell you, hey, this is a PL, third masculine singular. Don't be fooled, okay? Another option is when you're reading online, right? I've told you of a few online sources. Those Bibles, such as netbible.org, right? You hover over that word, it parses it for you. Blue Letter Bible, which is amazing, blueletterbible.com or .org, I don't remember which one it is. Blue Letter Bible, you click on it, it'll parse it for you. It'll break down the whole thing, okay? In fact, if you're having a lot of trouble with your homework, Blue Letter Bible is a great place to go to help you with your homework sentences. I know Trey will appreciate that because he likes to cheat. Blue Letter Bible would be great because you can just look up the verse for your homework and then go through and work through it in Blue Letter Bible, and it makes it, okay, I'm starting to see that, right? I'm stuck on this word, Blue Letter Bible, okay? But this is tricky. This is tricky. I will admit that. I wanted you guys to be aware of that because Martin doesn't bring it up. So maybe on page, I think he briefly does. Hold on. No, I don't think he does. Oh, he did. I may be wrong. I don't think Martin brings this up. There's another one. Okay. Sometimes Barak. What do you think already looked at Barak? I thought Martin put Barak in the book. He must not. Barak means to bless. Okay. Usually Barak is in the PL. Okay. Most of the time when you see Barak is in the PL, vocab points that out. Resh is a guttural. It's a funny guttural. Sometimes it'll take a diagonal, sometimes it won't. It doesn't operate quite like a guttural. What we have here is what's called compensatory lengthening. That's what's under that 2 guttural, compensatory lengthening. So we're looking at a second guttural word. We have regular consonant, guttural, regular consonant. What happens here? This right here. Compensatory lengthening is this. Losing the dagesh in your second consonant, okay, and it's lengthening that what would be a heric to a serif. See that? You see how it goes from, it's easy, right? Heric is 1 dot, dagesh is 1 dot, 1 plus 1 is 2, so now we got 2 dots, right? That's the way I was able to remember that. All right. It's even easier. Notice in the imperfect stem, stubborn vocal schwa, right, was a diagnostic feature of PL. We have a comments. Okay. What should that have been? Do y'all remember? A class vowel underneath the bait of the imperfect stem right here. I'm looking at this. And apothoc. Now look at the way a comment is drawn. You ready? Comment apothoc's a line, right? Dagesh is a dot. Compensatory lengthening. You take the dot, you put it under the apothoc. What do you got? You got a line with a dot under it. Comments. You see that? You see how you can start to like pictographically put that together? All right, that's compensatory lengthening. It's rejecting the dagesh, the dot that goes in that second consonant, and it's making picture, it's showing you where the dot went. We've got the dot right there. It's just in the wrong place. It's now, instead of here, it's Caesarea. Same thing here. We've got the dot, just in the wrong place. Should have been over here, but now it's comments. Y'all see that? That's compensatory lengthening. You'll find that in Hebrew quite a bit. Find that in Hebrew quite a bit. Okay. I think that's it. Yeah. All right. So do your exercises. We'll do a couple real quick together once I turn the recording off. Those of you watching the recording, try to do as many exercises as you can. I'm just going to say all of them. If you can do all of them, do all of them. If you can do 15 of them, do 15. If you do 5, do 5. Any bit of exercise you can do is going to help you tremendously. Like I said, use Blue Letter Bible. That'll help you guys. Study your vocab and your paradigms. If you don't know the Cal paradigm just yet, go back. Tick-a-toe, 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 tick-a-loo, tick-a-now. You need to be able to run through that booker, know what it sounds like, know what it looks like, so you can recognize these other verb stems. And then we need to have a discussion, which I'm going to have once this video closes. I'm going to have it with these two because I have Leah and Aiden here, and these two are my students that are going to school right now. I'll talk to them about how many more classes we're going to have, and I'll let the rest of you guys know because y'all's lives isn't changing that much with school starting. Theirs has. So thank you guys for watching. Do your exercises, study your vocabulary, and do your paradigms. In fact, let me run through the vocab real quick before I close this off. The vocab on page 113. Gesh, the PL. Notice some of these Martin's giving it to you in PL. Gesh, he's soft. Barak, he blessed. It's usually in the PL. The bear, he gave it to us in the PL again. He spoke. Tzeva, he commanded. Tzeva, he commanded. I remembered Barack from Barack Obama. That's how I remember that. In fact, Barack Obama's name, comes from a Semitic origin with Arabic, and Arabic shares a lot of Semitic roots with Hebrew. His name does mean blessing or to be blessed or something along those lines. Barack does mean that. Zabak, he slaughtered. Cows, he slaughtered. And Bios, it's offered. So think about that. Zabak is your word that you would use for a priest or Abraham offering up a lamb or offering up a sacrifice. Zabak is you slaughter, but you're slaughtering and offering it up. That PL intensifies. You're not just slaughtering it, but you're slaughtering and offering it up. It's an intensified idea. Again, we're seeing. So you really couldn't get that just by thinking about it. You need to kind of look that one up in the lexicon. That's one of those. Hika, he struck. Hit, he defeated. That's in the PL. I missed one. So he gave that to us in the Hifil. And I'm thinking that's probably going to be in one of your exercises because this is the first time Martin's actually done this, and I haven't noticed this before. Martin always gives us the lexical form of the Cal, perfect, third, masculine, singular. Now he's giving us several PLs, and I missed one. Nishba, which is he swore, which is from Shava. He gives that to us in the Nifal. So I'm betting it's going to be in your exercise, the reason he's giving it to us. Hika is actually in the Hifil, and that is Naka, which is cow to strike. Yasop, he added, he did again. Ayin is I, spring. Kodesh is holiness. I thought you had that already. I apologize. Kodesh, remember the PL. Kidesh, Kidosh, right? Holiness. Rosh is a head. Shana is a year. Dam is blood. Remember once Judas kills himself, the valley is called Dama, right? Field of blood. Aramaic, Dam, blood. Shaddai is field. Cherev, sword. Cherev, sword. Shemayim is heaven. Home is place. but you can think about Macomb, Macomb, Mississippi. That's a place, right? Macomb, and then Vayahi, which is the Wayapto form of Haya, which we've already learned. And it happened, and it was, right? On those vocabs, I'm sure it's going to help you with your vocab, with your sentences. We'll do these first here. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Goodbye.